Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. And this movie is directed by Peter Jackson, and it stars Martin Freeman, Ian McKellen, and a whole bunch of others. And I've seen all three of these Hobbit movies once before, and I'm not super familiar with them. I haven't seen them for like 5-6 years is when I last saw them. And rewatching these movies, it was almost kind of like watching them for the first time again. And overall, I thought this one in particular was decent. I enjoyed it overall. And one of my biggest criticisms would be that it's too long and some of those characters and storylines don't need to be there. And the references to Lord of the Rings kind of bugged me, and it was just unnecessary. And those are like my biggest gripes with the movie, and it's just too long, and I did get a little bit bored at certain points, and there were some effects that didn't look the very best. But what I do like about the movie, now that I've gotten my complaints out of the way, I like Martin Freeman as Bilbo Baggins and Ian McKellen as Gandalf the Grey. I liked the first 40 minutes. I liked the characters, even if they're not like getting really all that developed, really, because like you get a decent amount of screen time with all these dwarves, but they don't really develop the characters all that much, and it's kind of just, I don't know, trying to give you something, but by the end of the day, the only dwarf character who has any character at all really is Thorin. And that's about it. And one thing that I enjoyed about the movie was the overall adventure and just like seeing where the story was going and like watching Bilbo and just seeing how he adapts to like this big adventure, what he brings to the table. And like he's not really a warrior, but they hire him because they need a burglar, and that's pretty much all they use him for. And I did like how like he kind of makes up for the fact that although he can't really fight with anything really, he makes up for that with his smarts and just like figures things out just using his head. And that's pretty much what they do with the character. And I liked where the story kind of went with that. And although I did say I didn't really care for the references to Lord of the Rings, I did like it when we got some of the other actors back, like Cate Blanchett, Hugo Weaving, Christopher Lee. Like they all have one scene in the movie, and I thought that was a decent scene minus the references to Lord of the Rings. Like when you take that element out of it, then it's a good scene. And I did like the Gollum scene in the movie. It's pretty well known what it is. It's basically just a game of riddles. And that was probably my favorite scene in the whole movie. And it was fun, engaging. It's just exactly what it needed it to be. And it was really enjoyable. And I thought the music was great in this movie as well. And there were some like musical numbers, like actual songs, and I liked those as well. And although I do have complaints and positives, like when you kind of compare the two, it may seem like I'm leaning more towards not liking the movie, but I do have some appreciation for it simply because of what went on behind the scenes. And it was pretty much like a disaster, and like they just didn't know like when they were shooting like the first movie or the third or second or whatever, and they were kind of just like making it up as they went along. And you can kind of see that in the trailer, like when you watch like the official teaser for the movie. Like there are some shots in that teaser that are not in this movie at all, and they're in Desolation of Smaug, which is kind of weird. It was either in Desolation of Smaug or not in the movie at all. And it was basically just, wow, that was this kind of shows that things were not working out very well. And for anyone who's confused as to like which trailer I'm talking about for this movie, it's the one where they're singing the Misty Mountains Cold song, like one of my favorite songs in the whole movie, if not my favorite. The music does complement the film, and there are points where it does manage to capture the tone of what I like from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I didn't find any of the characters to be unintentionally unlikable. And it does a good job at like keeping you engaged for the most part, like interested in where things are going, and like it's not a super boring movie. And the only thing that I didn't mention yet is the villain of the movie, Azog the Defiler, if I pronounced that correctly. And I just find him to be a pretty weak villain, and he doesn't really need to be in the movie at all. There were also some computer animated shots that just looked, it was from a computer and it didn't really work in the live action scenes. And I just wish that they had more time to like do these things because of like what went on behind the scenes. And the action in the movie was serviceable. I wasn't annoyed by it. And like whenever this trilogy uses like practical sets or effects, or like when things are like practical and not from a computer, unless it's like CG creatures like say Gollum, or like Gollum's like the exception, like when he uses CG creatures that are like big trolls, like that's a bit distracting for me. But for the most part, when it's practical, it looks great and I can get behind it and I'm more into it. And there are some moments where it does kind of work on an emotional level. Sadly, like it doesn't always work, because I just wish that I got to know these characters a bit more, like our main dwarves. Like I wish that there was more to them, and I'll talk about this later when I talk about the sequels, like Desolation of Smaug, Battle of the Five Armies, like from memory. Like they tried to do some things, I believe, and more on that later. But like, I wish that it was done in this movie. So like, when certain things happen to these characters, I would care more. But overall, it's a movie where I wish there was more, and the runtime was more justified, and there weren't too many things that felt stretched out to me. Because I know The Hobbit is only like one book and they made like 3 movies out of it, and I know everyone has basically just said that, so I'm not going to really add too much to that conversation. But like on its own, I didn't feel as though like this one was like testing my patience or like ruining my experience because it was long. It's just that there were some things that I wish could have been done better, and it was watchable. And if you like Lord of the Rings, then maybe check this one out. I don't think it's going to ruin your experience with Lord of the Rings for the most part. Like there are some things that it kind of does so that are, it's like a little just unnecessary. But I could watch this movie again as a standalone film, and it's not a bad movie. It's just a film that could have been a lot better. So, with all that being said, I'm going to give The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey a 6 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought of The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey, and my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and it's, you guessed it, The Hobbit: The Desolation of Smaug, the second one. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.